At my wedding, my husband smirked. You signed everything already. So I revealed what I signed back. The room was glowing, crystal lights, soft music, and the low hum of people pretending everything was perfect. I remember holding my glass, smiling at guests I barely knew, when my husband leaned in close during the reception. His hand rested on my back, but his grip tightened just enough to feel like control. Then he whispered, almost amused, "You signed everything already." I froze. At first, I thought he meant the usual paperwork, marriage license, logistics, boring formalities. But when I looked at his face, that smirk, it wasn't love. It was victory. "What do you mean?" I asked quietly. He chuckled, taking a sip of champagne like we were sharing a private joke. "My parents made sure the prenup was thorough. The house, the accounts, future assets, it's all protected. You walk away with nothing." Nothing. The word echoed louder than the music. And suddenly all the little things made sense. The rushed documents. His mother insisting we just sign quickly before the ceremony. The lawyer I barely got to speak to. I wasn't a wife. I was a deal. He straightened his suit and turned toward the guests, raising his glass for a toast, completely confident I'd stay quiet. That's when I made my decision. "Actually," I said, stepping forward, reaching for the microphone before he could start, "I think this is the perfect moment to clarify something." The room shifted. Conversation stopped. He looked at me, confused, but not worried. "Not yet." "You're right," I continued, my voice steady. "I did sign everything." A few guests laughed awkwardly. "But what you didn't read," I said, pulling a folded document from my clutch, "was what I signed back." Now he was listening. His smile faded. "I had my own lawyer review your thorough prenup. And I added a clause before signing, when your team approved, without noticing." Silence. Complete silence. In the event of proven bad faith or financial manipulation, I read clearly, all protected assets are subject to immediate legal dispute and temporary freeze. Gasps. His mother stood up. "That's not." "Oh, it is," I interrupted calmly. "And it was filed this morning." He stepped closer, whispering sharply, "What are you doing?" I met his eyes. "Ending the business deal." Then I turned back to the room. I didn't marry for money, but I also won't be used for it. The music never came back on. And for the first time that night, he wasn't the one in control anymore. He stared at me like the ground had just disappeared beneath his feet. "You're bluffing," he said under his breath, but there was something new in his voice now, panic. I didn't answer him. Instead, I reached into my bag again and pulled out my phone, calmly tapping the screen before turning it toward him. An email. Stamped. Filed. Confirmed. From my lawyer. "You should check your accounts," I added softly. That's when his father grabbed his own phone. Then his mother. Within seconds, their expressions shifted, from irritation to confusion to pure disbelief. "What did you do?" she snapped, her voice rising now, no longer concerned about appearances. I tilted my head slightly. "I protected myself," I said. "Something you clearly never expected me to do." My husband ran a hand through his hair, pacing now, his composure completely gone. "This is insane," he muttered. "You're ruining everything over a misunderstanding." "A misunderstanding?" I repeated, almost laughing. "You married me for access. For control. For assets you thought I didn't understand." His silence said enough. I stepped closer, not as his bride, but as someone he had clearly underestimated. "You said I signed everything," I reminded him quietly. "But you never asked why I wasn't nervous." The room was still watching. No one was eating. No one was pretending anymore. "I knew exactly what I was signing," I continued. "And more importantly, I knew exactly who I was marrying." That landed hard. His mother tried to recover. "We can resolve this privately. There's no need to make a scene." I smiled politely. "Oh, but there is," I said. "Because you made it a transaction the moment you decided I was just a number on paper." I handed the microphone back to the stunned event coordinator, then picked up my glass one last time. "I came here to celebrate a marriage," I said, my voice carrying across the silent room. But I'm leaving having closed a deal. I set the glass down, untouched. And unlike you, I added, meeting his eyes one final time, I always read the fine print. Then I turned and walked out. No music, no applause, just silence, and the sound of everything they planned, falling apart behind me. The doors closed behind me, but I didn't stop walking. Not when I heard my name being called. Not when heels rushed across marble floors trying to catch up with me. Wait, he shouted. I kept going, because for the first time since I met him, I wasn't reacting. I was deciding. I said wait, he yelled again, grabbing my arm just before I reached the exit. I slowly looked down at his hand, then back at his face. Gone was the smirk. Gone was the control.
Now?
Desperation. You're overreacting, he said, trying to steady his voice. We can fix this. We can undo whatever you filed. I let out a small breath, almost a laugh. Undo, I repeated. You think this is paperwork? I gently pulled my arm free. This is consequence. His jaw tightened. If you walk out that door, you lose everything. That made me pause. Not because I was afraid, but because it was the last lie he had left. I turned fully toward him. Everything, I said quietly. You mean the life you designed for me? The one where I stay quiet, sign blindly, and smile on command. He didn't answer. You can keep it, I continued. All of it. I reached into my bag one last time, and this time I placed something in his hand.
A key.
He frowned. What is this? The house, I said simply. His eyes widened slightly. I never moved in, I added. I just let you think I did. Silence. You built your plan on the assumption that I needed what you had, I said. That I wanted your world. I stepped closer, just enough for only him to hear. I already had my own. That hit deeper than anything else. You lied to me, he whispered. I shook my head. No, I said calmly. I just didn't correct you. Behind him, through the glass, I could see the chaos unfolding inside. The whispers, the phones, his parents arguing with someone on speaker. The illusion was gone. Who are you? He asked, almost breathless. I held his gaze for a moment, then gave him the only answer he deserved. The woman who read everything. Then I turned, pushed the door open. And this time no one followed. Outside, the night air felt different. Lighter. Not because I had lost something, but because I had just walked away with everything that actually mattered. My name, my choices, my power. And somewhere behind me, a man who thought he had secured a perfect deal was finally realizing he was the one who signed the wrong one. I didn't go home that night. Not to the house. Not to anything with his name on it. Instead, I got into a car that was already waiting. The driver didn't ask questions. He just nodded and pulled away as the venue disappeared in the rearview mirror, along with everything they thought they had secured. My phone buzzed.
Once. Twice.
Then nonstop. His name. His mother. Unknown numbers. I silenced it. 5 minutes later, another notification came through, but this one made me look. My lawyer. I opened it. Assets successfully frozen. They've already attempted multiple transfers. Too late. I exhaled slowly, leaning my head back against the seat. Right on time. Another message followed. Also, there's something you should see. Check the attachment. I tapped it. It was a document. One I hadn't seen before. A series of internal emails. Between his parents. And him. Dated weeks before the wedding. I started reading. Once the marriage is finalized, we'll move forward with the consolidation. Make sure she doesn't question the revisions. After 6 months, we initiate the transfer quietly. My grip tightened on the phone. 6 months. That's how long they planned to keep me just comfortable enough not to notice. Just controlled enough not to resist. I kept scrolling. Then I saw it. The line that erased any last doubt. She's not emotionally sharp. She'll sign anything if you play it right. Silence filled the car. Not shock. Not even anger. Just clarity. I closed the file. Then, for the first time that night, I smiled. Not because it was over, but because now it wasn't just defense anymore. Now, it was evidence. My phone rang again. This time, I answered. You went too far. His voice came through, strained, no trace of confidence left. Freeze the accounts? Involve lawyers? Over what? Over what? I repeated calmly. You embarrass me in front of everyone. I let a second pass. Then another. No, I said. You embarrassed yourself. I just made it visible. He exhaled sharply. Listen, we can still fix this. My parents are already talking to their attorneys. Good. I cut in.
He paused.
Because that wasn't the reaction he expected. I've been waiting for that. I continued. What does that mean? He asked slower now. It means, I said, my tone steady, the moment your lawyers respond, mine will submit everything. Silence. The emails, I added. That did it. I could hear it, the exact second his breathing changed. You don't have anything, he said quickly.
But now?
He sounded scared. I didn't earlier, I replied. You were right about one thing. Another pause. You should have read everything.
Click.
I ended the call. Outside, the city lights blurred past the window, but I wasn't watching them. I was already thinking ahead. Because tomorrow, this wouldn't be a private scandal anymore. It would be a case. And for the first time, since this started, they wouldn't be controlling the narrative. I would. The next morning, everything changed. Not quietly. Not behind closed doors.
Publicly.
I walked into the building just as the glass doors reflected a version of me they had never seen before, calm, composed, untouchable. Inside, my lawyer was already waiting. You're right on time, he said, sliding a folder across the table. I didn't sit immediately. Have they responded? I asked. He nodded once. Aggressively. Of course they did. I opened the folder. Legal threats. Denials. Urgent motions to reverse the asset freeze. Predictable. They're claiming coercion, he added, saying you manipulated the agreement. That made me smile faintly.
Good, I said.
That means they're scared. I finally sat down. File everything. He studied me for a second, measuring. Everything, he repeated. I met his eyes. The emails. The timeline. The clause. All of it. A brief pause. Then a nod. Understood. By noon, it was no longer just a legal matter. It was a story. Calls started coming in not just from their side, but from people who suddenly wanted to clarify, to understand, to stay neutral. Funny how quickly neutrality appears when power shifts. By afternoon, his family had stopped calling. Not because they gave up, because they were recalculating. And by evening, he showed up, unannounced, at my door. I opened it before he could knock again. He looked different. Not broken, but no longer certain.
We need to talk, he said.
I stepped aside. 5 minutes. He walked in slowly, taking in the space. This place. My place. Not something borrowed. Not something shared. Something he never knew existed. You planned this, he said, turning to face me. I didn't answer right away, because this part mattered. No, I said finally. I prepared. His jaw tightened. You made me look like a fool. I crossed my arms slightly. You did that the moment you thought I would notice. Silence. Then quieter. It wasn't supposed to go like this. I almost laughed. That's the problem, I said. You had a plan for me, but no respect for me. He looked down for a second. Call it off, he said. The case. The freeze. All of it. There it was. Not an apology. A request. A negotiation. I walked closer, but not gently.
Give me one reason, I said.
He hesitated, and in that hesitation, everything became clear. There isn't one. I finished for him. His silence confirmed it. So I nodded once. Then we're done here. I walked to the door and opened it. He didn't move at first. Is this really how you wanted to end? He asked. I looked at him, not with anger, but with certainty. No, I said. A small pause. Then, this is just where it starts. He left without another word. And this time, when the door closed, there was no echo of loss, only the quiet certainty that what came next wouldn't be about surviving what they did. It would be about proving they chose the wrong person to underestimate.